Just the combination of Barnheiser, Martinelli, and the challenges they kind of present.
Yeah, just their ability to make threes, to drive the ball, to play out of post-ups, to pass the basketball. I think that's what sometimes when you go against guys that can really, really score, you can load up on them. And if you load up on those guys, they'll make you pay with their ability to pass. But both really good players. Obviously, Martinelli's very unique in his ability to hit floaters and runners and post-ups. But they're play starters and they're play finishers. A lot of times you're either one or the other. And both those guys can do it all. So it's just not them. They have good pieces, they have experienced pieces, they have toughness. They've had some bad breaks. They've got a couple bad, endings to games where it's just some things you haven't seen before. But they're a great team. They're well coached. They're disciplined. They're tough. They run good stuff. They guard you. And we're going to have our hands full. It's a great challenge for us.
These are always really physical games with Northwestern.
Yeah.
What does Trey need to be ready for?
I think we all need to be ready for it. We know they're physical and they get after it on the defensive end, but they've doubled a lot in the post. They've went immediately. They've went on the dribble. They've left it alone and played some one-on-one this year in the post. So you'll probably see an assortment of that or just a heavy dose of one of them. A lot of times guys will mix some things at times. Sometimes people just stick with whatever they choose. So just normal stuff though. You got to make the right reads. If they're trying to get the ball out of somebody's hands, you got to get the ball out of your hands. And that's where you get in trouble when you try to pass through people.
You think you're probably sticking with the same lineup? I know you talked about Caleb, that being kind of a matchup-specific thing as well as he played the game before that.
Yeah, we'll stay the same way. But every guy's coming in off the bench, they're gonna match up to the guys that we're talking about. So you got to have. We switch stuff too. So with certain action, we'll switch just kind of like they do. And so sometimes they don't have quite the matchup they want. But when you switch, some of the stuff you stop the action and then you force them into a dribble down or you force them into a one-on-one play. They will get into that even without their action. And they'll kind of search people out and set ball screens to people they want you to switch with. I think it's going to be important for us to be able to keep them in front of them when they're very, very good with angles. More than anything, but kind of back to personnel. It's going to be our whole team guarding their whole team, and there's going to be some matchups that they like over others, and vice versa. But you still have to be able to play defense as a team.
I know it's probably not the last time you might look at something like this over the course of the season, but for right now, I know people look at mostly what you did with the starting lineup, but what does it mean now with Camden and Miles coming off the bench, and what does that give you?
Yeah, they just get into a different rotation more than anything. They don't start, obviously, and it doesn't mean they can't finish, but you just kind of rotate differently. I got Trey out a little bit earlier in the last game, but then got him back in there. I think sometimes when he gets prolonged minutes, he gets pretty fatigued there, so just trying to get kind of a little bit more out of less with him, even though he still played a high volume of minutes. But I think each one of those guys just has to bring energy, just has to be ready to go. Obviously, if we can find some people that can defend at a high level and rebound, those guys are gonna play with you. So no matter who starts or doesn't start, that's really gonna help us. And if you can be one of those guys and make a couple shots, that'd be beautiful.
Barnheiser's size at the point guard, just what kind of pressure does that put on the defense?
Oh, a lot. He can see over the defense. He can get to his spots and shoot his pull up or shoot his fade away. He's a very versatile player, and he's been a guard his whole life. He might kind of play with 4 or 4, but he's been a guard, and so he's just got that body now as that combo forward, and now he can guard kind of like 1 through 5, but he also can kind of play like a 1 through 5 too. Kind of today's play.
Braden gets to 1,000 points against Minnesota. Fletcher's 13 points away. Just how unique and what has made it work for those two individually and collectively with everything they've done.
Yeah, they've been, really good, productive players for us. They're very intelligent. They understand. They've had a lot of experience to have the numbers that those guys have, and they still have a lot of games to play in their career. And it was pretty special. But the numbers that are the best are the wins. Like those are the one. Like a lot of times, guys can have some numbers in college, but then they don't put wins behind it. Like those guys are having some pretty good numbers, but they're being really successful. I think it would be hard pressed to see that Caleb won't be the winningest player in school history. But if we can stay healthy, I think those two will leapfrog that, and that will really be tough to win because they've been able to put together some pretty impressive numbers in terms of wins.
Is there anything off court with those two that you see that kind of even explain on court that teams just in general?
No, more just they're into the game, but they know what the hell's going on. They're competitive. They play to win. They share a lot of the same traits. So they're two guys that'll be linked together forever. You kind of see that with certain people throughout Purdue history. Guys that come in and play right away, like Troy Lewis and Todd Mitchell, Edward Stevens, guys like that. Chad Austin and Brad Miller, those be linked together because those guys that are linked together have great careers, but they also do a lot of winning.
What's your offensive mix look like this year? It seems like you're running a lot of motion.
Yeah, we run a lot of motion, but we play a lot through ball screens with Braden, obviously. It just depends, obviously, if you're going to switch a lot. If you five-way switch, we go to different stuff versus if you're not going to switch. So just really trying to get that and get the defense in between more than anything. But yeah, we run a lot more motion just because we're more versatile, especially on our front line. Like Trey can come out and do different things. And you run less motion and more sets when you got a great low post player. So I think that's why you see us going to more of it than we did in the past.
How much are you trying to weaponize Braden without the ball? You had CJ initiate offense a little bit in Minnesota and ran Braden on a lot of the stuff you typically run for your off-ball shooter.
Yeah, we run that anyways, and so like anytime we can do that, we'll get the ball out of Braden's hands and try to get it back in his hands. So we have a handful of sets and stuff that we do that with just normally, but it just kind of depends on what we think we can get, and sometimes that's dependent on like the action that leads up into it. Like, can you get a full head of steam? Can you get an angle? If you can't, then you got somebody getting stuck with the basketball that you don't want stuck with the basketball. I think that's probably the hardest thing for coaches is you can run some really good action, but if you don't get what you want, now you can get stuck. Then you can have, I think a fan probably looks at it like why do you have those tough possessions, like those 4 or 5 possessions at the end? You're like, man, because the defense was better than the offense on that, where you just didn't get a catch or it wasn't clean or whatever. So like, yeah, no, we've always ran stuff for him to give the ball up and let CJ, let that 2 start with it. We did it last year with Lance, obviously.